Good morning. If you're following along in the lectionary for this week, you'll notice that it's pretty tough. It's some tough lectionary reading. You see, in the Old Testament, the Israelites have made it to the promised land, but just because God answers them, God's faithful and did what they wanted, they still have some unfaithfulness. They continue to worship foreign gods. It's kind of amazing to me that when things go good, we forget God, but when things go bad, we call upon God to help us. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens when the Israelites get into the promised land. Um, Joshua warns them to choose who they're going to serve. And he warns them of the dangers of unfaithfulness, and yet they still do the wrong thing. And the psalmist today in Psalm 78, 1 through 7, it's pretty telling as well. Give ear, O my people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. Things that we have heard and known that our ancestors told us. We will not hide them from their children. We will tell to the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord. But what the psalmist is saying is that in order for us, for things to happen, we have to remember what God's done, and we have to share that with the coming generations. One great quote is, we're always one generation to having a society with no Christianity. And if we don't pass it on, let me encourage you something that I've always encouraged everyone. Our job as disciples of Christ is to disciple someone else. And the first people we should disciple should be our family. Growing together in Christ as a family, sharing our faith with our children and even our grandchildren. Earlier generations, the psalmist tells us, and Joshua tells us, were stubborn and rebellious. In heart and in action, they were not faithful to God, and disastrous consequences followed their failure to respond to God's work and God's way. And the psalmist goes on to say, He established a decree in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which He commanded our ancestors to teach their children, that next generation they might know, the children yet unborn, and rise up to tell them to their children. So they should set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep His commandments. Let us remember that as God has been good to us, it is our duty, our responsibility, our call to share that with future generations. God bless you and have a wonderful day.